Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show, everybody. And as you know, welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam. And as you know, I thought yesterday was Monday, so I did this whole Makeover Monday thing, and you guys waited till I said the whole spiel, and then you go, Raghunath, it's Tuesday, you fool.
You get on a roll, you know. It's like hard to stop you.
I am like a boulder rolling down a hill. And guess what? We're doing our walk on Wednesday tomorrow. How about that? Okay. I just had to, you know why? Because I came back from my travels in Nashville and Texas.
Yeah. And
I got all these packages in the mail. The first one is from our most beloved, who's been on other lately, is Krishna Drew. She heard me. Oh, she heard me saying, "Man, Raghunath really wants some upma." So she said, "I couldn't." No kidding. If you don't know what upma is, it's like a savory porridge from South India. You know, Kaustubha, you make a good upma.
I have a good recipe. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so check it out. She sent me these upma packs to make myself with a little Krishna card. She's like, "I know Raghunath's craving upma.
If you come here, Gita Priya would be happy to make you really good upma.
I will come for the upma."
And then like you saw yesterday, you saw what I sent you yesterday. I sent you a photograph.
You sent me the photograph yesterday?
I sent you a photograph of those Spanish paratas.
The way Kaustubha lives, he's living like a king. If you think about what is like the highest material gratification you can get,
some good food, right?
Good food, just some good food. And even the wealthiest people, like, what's the good food for? They go to a restaurant and get some good food. Restaurant, we know, it's the worst food you can get.
Oh, it's bad
food. You know, unless it's like devotee food, devotees cooking that food. But the consciousness of the cook is what you're eating. Yeah. So whoever your cook is, whatever that habits that cook has, that's what we're consuming.
And they use cheap oils and things like that too. So
junk. That's why I only eat. That's why I only get catered food by Mara.
Well, she's number one.
She's number one. Evolution. But Simon's Catering.
Because recently we got this mill grind. You know, this grinder, this mill. You know, and you
see. This is how like Europeans, Austrians live. They mill their own grains.
That's how you do.
No one's eating wheat. No one's eating like wheat in a bag.
Like flour that you buy in the store.
No,
because they remove like 2/3 of the goodness that's in that flour.
You want to hear something crazy? Mother Yamuna, the Mother Yamuna, not our Mother Yamuna. There's two Yamunas in this world. There's Yamuna Jelly, and then there's Prabhupada's Yamuna Devi. Mm-hmm. But the Mother Yamuna told me that Prabhupada, when she would make him chapatis, Prabhupada would say, you know, okay, this is. He knew exactly when it was ground. Mm-hmm. Well, because you develop that Epicurean taste for fresh ground grains, and it's something that even India does today. You want grains, you can, you know, in Vrindavan, you see them. You bring your grains to the grinder.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'll tell you something. Not only is it much more delicious, and not only is it much more nutritious, but my wife, you know, she would have trouble eating gluten. Right, she couldn't eat just like regular flour and everything.
Oh, interesting.
She's been eating this.
Keto.
No problem. No problem
Maybe I
whatsoever.
can eat them. You just buy organic wheat berries and you grind it.
And you grind them. And so
If anybody does that, especially Europeans, put it up on the board. I'm curious because I went to on tour in Europe once. I've noticed a few people had grinders.
it's the way to go. And
We like it prepackaged here in America.
it's just for convenience. We throw out everything good. It's ridiculous. And
For convenience.
it's actually no inconvenience. It's cheaper. You buy it. You know, it can store forever there, those berries.
Yeah.
And then you just put it in the thing, and in a minute it comes out, and you got your flour, freshly ground, full of nutrition, full of, healthy, delicious. And I'll tell you something, Raghunath. You mentioned Yamuna jelly, Happy Girl Kitchen. Well, we took those spinach paratas that my wife made, fresh off
you use it as a
the
chutney?
skillet, and then we used her it was a quince jelly and quince jam. She has them both, and
You know what?
dip
You're
that
not going to
hot
believe this.
parata in
You're
there.
not going to believe this, but I used Yamuna Jelly's jelly. She has a spicy jelly that I used as a chutney yesterday. I did it yesterday, just when you did it.
We were connected there.
Isn't that weird? You're like my mom. It's like I want to call my mom, and then she calls me.
You see,
We're connected like that.
we're like that, Raghu.
Check this out. I got a beautiful card from Lisa Tuttle from Maine,
I got
who's
that
living
card too.
off.
I got that. I got that card too.
did. Yeah, did she put $25 in your card like she did for me?
Actually. Yeah.
Oh, really?
She's so kind. She wrote a beautiful, kind note. She's that was
Really
a very
nice
sweet
lady.
gesture.
She gave me a bunch of candy because she knows I like sweets.
Good,
I thought
good.
that was really good. And she even wrote Mara and Bunky a card as well. Wasn't that sweet? She's sweet. And then you're not going to want to hear this, but it's a gift, so I'm going to say it anyway.
All right.
Me mom's nuts. My mom's
Here we go.
nuts.
Here we go.
My mom's nuts.com sent
you
me
go.
their latest samadhi drops, which are important. No THC. And this other new one they have, nano nuts. Nano nuts is
Should we tell them the truth
broad
about THC,
spectrum.
Raghunath? Should we tell them the truth now?
You know, I was thinking about it. I might as well tell it.
All right.
All right, I'm going to tell the story. This
You go back
happened.
to episode number 5.
Do you know what it
something.
is? Do you know what episode it is?
No. Do you know, Mary?
I can think 574 maybe,
Oh man, no one knows the
Two
story.
questions, 2 Q&As ago, I
or
think.
568.
Oh, it's two Q and A's.
That's probably
I think it was
Episode
568.
Well,
Should I
you just
tell
look
the
at the
story?
thumbnail. If Raghunath has a big, goofy smile on his face, that's the one.
All right, check this out.
Tell
This
the
is
story.
one of the most crazy. Well, you know, still recovering from COVID, and I was moving rooms in the house with my ex-wife. We're switching rooms, and I couldn't find my samadhi drops, which I've been taking every day because I sleep like a log. Kaustubha can tell you. And I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep ever since COVID. I just have a hard time going to sleep. And I couldn't find my samadhi drops in the moving, but my wife had some
She has
some
some in her stash.
other type of like cannabis oil. And so I just right before I went to bed, and I take like 2 big tincture, squirterfuls. And then I felt like I was so exhausted from moving. Then I took 2 whole things and I chugged a little. And so then I went to bed, and me and Bunky are sleeping on the floor. And I woke up, and it was time for the show. It was Q&A day. And, one of the things I got during COVID was what's it called? Vertigo. When you stand up and just like, oh, I'm going to fall down. So I got up and I was like, oh, Bunky, I've got vertigo, but it's really bad. And so I'm
It's
crawling.
really
I'm crawling to the bathroom on my hands and knees. And I get to the bathroom. And, when people, I've never had a heart attack or a stroke, but your body must like signal something weird. And I was like, oh my God, maybe I'm having a heart attack because I feel really weird right now. And I was like, oh my God, maybe I'll have a stroke. I was like, Bunky, help me, Bunky. I think I might be having a heart attack. And I'm kneeling in the bathroom holding on. He goes, do you have any coordination? I was like, no, I can't stand up. He goes, well, just try to stand up. And so I stand up. I was like, actually, I have perfect coordination. And I started like moving my body in place. And then I was like, why is the entire bathroom throbbing? And I was like, oh my God, wait a second. I took a bunch of medicinal my wife had this medicinal stuff she uses that you're supposed to take.
THC.
Yeah, you're supposed to take 2. I barely ever in my life been stoned. I was like, I am stoned out of my mind. I've got to call Kaustubha. I crawled back to the phone. I was like, Kaustubha, I can't remember anything.
No, you called me before the show and you said, Kaustubha, you're not going to believe this. Sit down. I'm like, oh God, what now? But that, if anyone, the point is you took like an incredibly huge dose of this stuff.
Yeah, you're supposed to take a tiny drop, like a micro dose. And I thought it was the regular stuff. I didn't even know what freaking THC is. I've been a straight edge guy my whole life.
So episode 568, which was the Q&A volume, look at the thumbnail for that, and you'll see the biggest, goofiest smile on Raghunath's face that you're ever going to see. And he did that entire episode stoned out of his mind.
You got to re-listen to it. But I tell you, I remember trying to read the that's why Mara was reading the questions, because I would read the questions and forget where I am. And then and there was one point in that show you said, okay, so what do you think of that? And I was like, what did we just say?
Somehow we made it through it.
Oh my God. I didn't want to tell anybody, but thank you for sharing. Anyway, this stuff has no THC.
Good.
I made sure of it.
Yeah, double check.
It's just relaxing and anti-inflammatory, and oh my God. I don't know why people like, hey, let's go get stoned. I was like, I never want to ever feel like that again. Ever.
Good.
And I got news for you. I was stoned all day long.
I'm sure you were.
Didn't go away.
Right.
I'm sensitive.
Well, Bunky said something like when you take it orally, it like lasts a lot longer.
It went like right into my blood. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's the last thing I want to announce. Thanks for the goodies, everybody.
That's sweet. Did you want to get into that nugget stuff?
Through my Bhagavatam? Oh, yeah. We'd have a great nugget. Hey, I just want you guys to know all these nuggets, all this stuff, it's all connected to the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam isn't a one-dimensional book. All these things we want to practice and apply to life. Important stuff. We mentioned Stephen Covey yesterday, who is one of me and Kaustubha's heroes. He wrote this book. He's a Mormon.
I call him my hero. But
not your hero. He's my hero.
I'm impressed with him.
No, I'm impressed with him. I want to be like him.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind being his good friend or student.
Yeah.
10 quotes, and he's a good father too. He's got like 10 kids.
Really?
Anyway, here's one of it. As long as you think the problem is out there, that very thought is the problem.
I was thinking about that, because some people say, well, what about social issues that are out there? But there's one way to say it's out there, it's them. And there's another way to look at it, say, we have a problem, right? We have a problem, right? It's not out there, it's here. And if you approach it with that way, there's actually hope for progress in like communication,
Yeah. I got news for you. Every one of these could be a Wisdom of the Sages t-shirt. Ready?
Okay.
Be a light, not a judge. Be a model, not a critic.
That connects to the whole circle of influence.
Yeah.
Kind of thing
be a model, not a critic.
Yeah.
I mean, like live it. Unless he meant be a runway model, not a critic. Just kidding. Live, love, laugh, leave a legacy.
Okay.
Let's just get him to do this podcast. He's much wiser than me. Live out of your imagination, not your history.
Yeah, this conditioning that we have, we don't have to be.
Live out of your imagination, not your history. Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's determined. This
is a great one. This is a belt buckle right here. Mm-hmm. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Mm-hmm. Whenever I'm in our argument, this one pops into my head. Do this one. Seek first to understand, then be understood.
That means that and how you can practically play that out, Raghunath.
Yeah, you can ask them, right? You repeat what they're.
But even
Let me understand you.
What you're supposed to do is when someone's presenting their position, then you say it back to them, but you say it back so well that they say, "Oh, you said that you articulated that better than I could." When you can do that, then you've really gone the distance. And in order to do that, you need to really listen, right?
Tukaram Prabhu does this awesome. He says, so let me see if I understand what you're saying. And then he tells you it back better than you've even explained it. It's just, he's expert like that. Okay. Sow a thought. This is a great one. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny.
So the destiny all starts with?
Sow a thought.
With your thoughts.
This is 260. That's 262 of the Gita.
Yeah, true.
Not really. No, it's not.
I mean, it's connected.
But it's how your
contemplating
thoughts.
the objects of the senses. That's a thought.
Yeah,
right.
It's
attachment to it.
It's a thought. The thought is the first domino
It's the
that
origin.
happens.
Yeah.
So in the one in the Gita, it is about a darker thought, and that darker thought leads to our end up giving up
Well,
our
not even necessarily like
self-control.
particularly dark, right? But it eventually goes dark. Contemplating the objects of the senses. I want this. What's the matter with that? There's nothing wrong with that. But then your attachments set in.
Yeah.
And then it can start to get dark. When you don't get your attachments, then anger develops, right? And so on. Okay.
Okay. Here's more. You like these, Mara? Just check. You checked
Yes,
out,
I
Mara?
do.
What's going on? Cutting vegetables over there? Whipping stuff with your whipper?
She probably applies this kind of stuff in her life already. That's why that's how you
she's
have a successful
she's
business like she has.
she's very an upright citizen, I'd say, Mara. She's good.
Yeah, but also a
Never
leader.
went through the. She's
I have good teachers in my life, good people in my
You
life.
see that?
No, you were good before you met us.
You're probably better. Probably a little bit better.
Maybe even better than me. The main here. This is a Stephen quote. What? The main thing is to keep the main thing the main
Yeah,
thing.
We stole that. I didn't even know we stole that.
Stole that. Didn't even know I stole that thing. Your economic security does not lie in your job. It lies in your own power to produce, to think, to learn, to create, to adapt. That's true financial independence. It's not having wealth. It's having the power to produce wealth.
Okay.
Just threw that one in for you wealth builders out there. Okay.
You missed one. The key is
Did
not
I?
to prioritize what's on your schedule. This is good. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities.
I love that.
You got to apply that a little. I'm gonna get on your case. I'm gonna get on your case because you're just running around like mad. It was the guy saying, like, "Hey, this is important." You're like, "I don't have any time for that." I know, because you've already filled your whole schedule up with running around like crazy.
I used to have the Stephen Covey day. Remember when people carried day
Daytimer.
planners with them?
Day planner.
Day
yeah.
planner. I had a Stephen Covey day planner when I was like 23. I've been into this guy since I was like 19, Stephen Covey.
Right.
I'm not sure how I got into him. Okay. Well, enough. That was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, play the music. That's the show today. There's your takeaways.
We gotta come on. Let's get into Bhagavatam. Like the lady dies. Like, yeah, let's get into the song. I see her over there.
The Texas Zoomers are like, oh, yeah, that was pretty good. That was like it in a nutshell.
Okay.
All right. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, I want you to offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter, Mara. Tell us that chapter.
Chapter 28, text 4.
By the way, everybody, there is a sweet baby Krishna tonight. Patrick Hefferman and Mara are going to come over. We're going to read, and we're going to all have a little prasad dinner tonight. Kaustubha, wish you were here. But we're going to do it at 7 o'clock tonight.
We
7
only have
p.m.
2 more nights of Kartik chanting.
I know. That moon is already bright right now.
But why don't we do this all year round, right? Why not just keep those sweet baby Krishnas going?
I mean,
and
we do.
get-togethers?
We do pretty much. We
Okay,
do it all.
good.
We do it all year. We haven't stopped. It's been about 2.5 years on the Bhagavatam here.
No, but I
Okay.
mean the sweet baby. Those get-togethers in the evenings. Special kind of thing.
Okay. Mary, you're cooking every evening. Okay. You good with that?
Okay.
She's down.
Yeah.
So we're reading how now the yoga system is being described here. It's an Ashtanga yoga practice here. All the limbs of Ashtanga yoga and more are being spoken about right now by Kapila Dev to Devahuti. And then once he's done with that, then he's going to describe that now that you do all those things, right? You got to live the right life. That's the yamas and the niyamas, right? Because if you don't have the right lifestyle, your mind is going to be all kinds of distracted. So he's going to lay all that the yama and the niyamas out, the ethical kind of lifestyle, healthy lifestyle. And then you do your asanas, and you get all those systems in the body flowing nice and smooth. And then you do your pranayama, you're settling the mind more and more. Pratyahara, then you kind of like detach your senses from the outside world, and then you go into the levels of concentration. So he's going to lay out this whole yoga system, which Patanjali lays out, more or less the same thing here. But then he's going to go and describe in great detail the focus of meditation, which is the form of Lord Vishnu.
When was the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras written?
People date it differently, but I think, honestly, I'm forgetful, but maybe about 2,000 years. The people, or a little bit more, 2,500 years. People put that at something like that.
All right,
I
so
mean, the connections between Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras are clear. It's clear that it's
part of the same culture. It's part of the same culture. It's not like you're taking taking apart a typewriter and saying, okay, this fits under the hood of your Mercedes. It's like not two different machines. They fit nicely within each other. One, just the Bhagavatam predates it by a few thousand years, at least according to the Bhagavatam itself.
Sure. But also when you read the Yoga Sutras, like the directness and the personalism that's there in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is largely reduced in the Yoga Sutras, where it's kind of like, okay, you can't handle the conception of a personal God, that's too much. Okay, then we're just going to call him Ishvara, right? Like speak about him in a very generic way. And we'll say that Ishvara, Patanjali does say Ishvara is a person, right? Purusha. He's a special Purusha, right? He says he's a special person. That he taught the science of yoga to the ancients. Krishna says, I taught this to the Sangha. It's like the Bhagavad Gita connections are all there. Yeah. But, and it says, and then if you want to bring, and you purify the mind and bring your mind to Ishvara, Patanjali is going to say by meditating on Om, right? Which is, that is a sound representation, a sound presence of God there. But here Kapila Dev's going to take it further, he's taking it further and saying, no, Lord Vishnu, he looks exactly like this. Here's his qualities, here's his form, here's, it's like a more direct description. Not everybody wants that. Patanjali's going to kind of like say, okay, that's okay. You can still practice like this and bring your mind to samadhi without that. But Kapila Dev's like, why not go all the way? In Vyasadeva, in Bhagavatam, he wants to bring you the whole way. So we're getting these descriptions here. But so now we're hearing the descriptions of the practice, and he's laying down the different principles in the practice, right? Because you can't just live any way that you want and do anything you want and think you're going to be able to sit down and meditate and have an undistracted, deeply absorbed mind. You got to take, you know what I compare it to, Raghunath?
What?
Like practicing Ashtanga yoga and with the goal of achieving, samadhi, like, this incredibly deeply focused, one-pointed state of trance. I compare it to being like an Olympic athlete. It's kind of like the goal is so elusive, right? To win the gold medal, like one person's going to do it. And in order to do that, you got to change your whole life. You can't just like...
Right. It's sort of like a virtuoso in piano or something.
Yeah, you got to...
You can't just wake up in the morning and what am I going to do today? You need to be like extremely focused.
Yeah. Like say these gymnasts, it's like... They give up their boyfriend. They give up, every day, right after school, they're immediately training, and they train for hours and hours and hours,
Yeah. I mean, what do you think Mara was like when she was on the girls captain, the girls soccer
it was highly competitive,
hockey team?
Highly competitive.
Competitive. You don't get to be number one in the state team captain, just goofing around.
It gets a little dark, it gets a little dark sometimes,
How was that time of your life, Mara? Were you very, very... was it like when all the
Competitive
competition
watching.
was going on and you rose to the top? What was that like?
Did your team rise
It
to the
was
top?
great. Yeah, we weren't state champions or anything like Raghunath.
I just made that up.
Yeah. We won whatever our sectionals was, I think.
See, she always comes out on top, Mara. She's number one.
Always comes out on
Big
top.
counter.
She's got good karma.
Yeah, she's good. She's focused. You see.
Okay.
So in any
All right.
case, yeah. You if you want to achieve this highly elusive state of consciousness through this, incredibly disciplined path, you've got to give up stuff, and you got to, So here the beginning of that is being laid out. It begins with the first thing they laid out was Svadharma Acharanam, executing one's prescribed duties. Right, you have to be very dutiful in your life. Then he says Santosha, which is directly from the niyamas of Patanjali, contentment, practice contentment. Then Atmavich Charanarchanam, worship of the lotus feet of a Atmavit, a knower of the soul. Right. Then Gramya Dharma Nivritis, letting go of conventional religion. And then Mita Medyadanam, eating frugally. And then Vivikta Kshema Sevanam, dwelling in a secluded place. So these are the things he's laid out so far. And now in text 4, he's going to continue to lay out more. That's not it. There's more you have to do.
There's more you have to do. You want to follow this path, but it's a path, but he's also speaking of it's a devotional path too.
Because he's going to connect it all to
so here's the
meditating
question that is the elephant in the room: are we supposed to be doing this? This is a devotional path. Are we doing this?
Are we supposed to practice Ashtanga yoga like Kapila Dev is saying?
Yeah.
Well,
it's devotional the way it's described here.
It is, but he's going to go on to describe to Devahuti other paths of yoga and more direct paths of bhakti.
All right.
So, but at the same time, all these principles are valuable. And in this verse, it's more or less straight. This, as you're saying, this predates Yoga Sutras. Well, this next verse, it's all right there. Like you'll see Ahimsa, Satyam, Asteyam. It's straight out Yoga Sutras right here.
Okay, ready? Text 5.
4.
One should practice nonviolence, truthfulness, should avoid thieving. I love that word, thieving. And I think it's British. And should avoid thieving and be satisfied with possessing as much as he needs for his maintenance. He should abstain from sex life, perform austerity, be clean, study the Vedas, and worship the supreme form of the personality of Godhead.
Okay, so here you go, right? This is Ahimsa. This is the first one, nonviolence. That's right. Yoga Sutras. Satyam, same
boom,
thing.
Yoga Sutras.
That's truthfulness. Asteyam, refraining from theft.
This is the Yoga Sutras.
This is the Yoga Sutras right here. Then it says Yavat Arta, as much as necessary, parigraha, possessing. So aparigraha is right. Also Yoga Sutras, right? No greed, being satisfied relatively simply. Brahmacharyam, celibacy, Yoga Sutras, right? Tapas.
It's basically laying down the yamas and the niyamas of the yoga system.
Yeah, tapas,
which
austerity.
Right?
There, yeah.
Which every yoga class skips, right? No one's teaching the yamas and niyamas at core power yoga.
If you're practicing, people, I feel that a lot of people come to yoga practice. They come for so many different reasons. A lot of them are health related, and a lot of them are body related. But also, you could have done anything else, right? You could have done some kind of aerobic thing, or Pilates, or spinning, or these different things that people do.
Zumba. Can you see Kaustubha doing Zumba?
I don't know exactly what Zumba is. Why are you laughing? Look at mocking me. Could you imagine that? Skinny, ridiculous guy.
You're just not. No, it's not. You're skinny, ridiculous. I just don't see you ever doing Zumba.
I don't know even exactly what it is.
I don't either. Don't worry.
Okay, but what was I saying? What was the point? Oh yeah, but people go to asana a lot of times because there seems to be some kind of spiritual element that they want to connect with. Right?
I think it's the breathing.
Well, breathing can lead to it, right? But
Yeah, I think
point,
breathing leads to it because people are so at a sync with their breathing. When you're even athletes sometimes, when you say, okay, you're going to stay here and you're just going to breathe, and especially when you're doing some people with a rajasic mind, if they were say to sit and breathe, that's too hard. But if you put them in a very difficult pose, like holding warrior one, and then have them breathe, that's like a whole magic process that's happening. You're like, I'm sweating, I'm burning, it hurts, and I'm relaxed,
yeah.
and I'm not gripping. You know,
And so, and that is a way of disciplining the mind too. There's a connection between the breath and the mind, and then you get into difficult pose, and then you learn to settle your mind in that pose, and you're beginning to learn how to master your mind. Right? It's like a beginning of that. But also, I think this is the point. The spiritual stuff happens when you learn to concentrate your mind. That's how this yoga path works.
yeah.
And so here it's being kind of laid out all that's involved in that. It involves all the things we said. It involves tapas, austerity. It involves saucham, cleanliness, externally and internally. And then svadhyaya, study of the Vedas, right? One has to study this and contemplate, bathe their intellect in this kind of philosophy. That's what we do here in yoga.
It's interesting. Generally in yoga teacher trainings, I've noticed when this word svaya, is that what this is? The translation of study of the Vedas?
Svadhyaya. Yeah.
Svadhyaya. They always translate it to, and yoga teachers can correct me or agree with me on the message board. Self-study, they call it self-study, but it's not self-study.
It is. Sva means self.
Yes, but it's not like I'm looking at my veiny hands. That's not self-study. I'm looking at my bicep.
Not the self.
That's not self. It is the self seeing through the mirror of the Vedas.
Yeah.
That's who you are. It's going to tell you you're a spiritual being. You're not the senses, you're not the mind. That's what self-study is.
Yeah, I mean, these words all have literal translations, right? So svadhyaya means study of the self, but what is the self? It's not the body. Brahmacharya in most of these yoga books that, modern Western interpretations, they're going to water that brahmacharya down, right? But anybody that's from the tradition, they know, what it means, right?
Ever see that book, Rajiv Malhotra's Non-Translatables? There's certain words he says you just can't translate these words. There's certain words you can't just translate them. We try our best, but it's hard, and we always stumble too. It's hard to explain exactly what this is.
Well, I mean, you can translate it literally. Brahmacharya, Brahma means spiritual, you could say, and achara means behavior, so it means behaving spiritually. But anybody from the tradition, you read the books, right? Like for instance, Bhishma. Right, he takes a vow of brahmacharya. Right, but everyone knew what that meant. He wasn't saying, "From now on, I will act in a spiritual way." He was taking a vow of celibacy, and everybody knew it. So the term is commonly used that way. So yeah, a lot of the stuff, you can redefine the terms, but you got to really, if you go to the tradition, you understand what the terms mean. So, and then the last one it mentions is purusa archanam, which is Purusha means the person, or here, really identifying that supreme person, and archanam means the worship of, which is just in another, in one way, it's a different way of saying Ishvara Pranadhan, which you find in the Yoga Sutras. So basically, you have the Yoga Sutras laid out right here. One was missing. Which one was it?
Yeah, you caught that.
Yeah, but I'm forgetting which one it is now. Oh, you know what? Because it was mentioned earlier. And that's Santosha. Contentment, which was mentioned in a verse or two earlier. So it's all there.
All right.
You want to read the commentary, or you're not?
Of six, of four, four. It's just like once you start talking, I'm like completely off this page. Sure, I'll read it. Okay. All right, here we go. The word purusharchanam in this verse means worshiping the personality of Godhead, especially in the form of Lord Krishna. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed by Arjuna that Krishna is the original Purusha.
Yeah. What verse is that? Do you know? Where, or at least
is it from the 15th chapter?
That's Purushottama. That's there. But
I don't know
there's a Purusham Shashvatam.
11th chapter.
10th chapter.
Right. All right.
Arjuna turns to
I
Krishna.
just got like 1 out of 18 of the chance to get this right.
We'll get there eventually.
4.
But there's that, after the nutshell verses in the Gita, right? Beautiful verses that in a sense contain the entire message of the Gita.
Mara, what are the 4 nutshell verses? You don't have to say them, just say what numbers.
10, 8, 9,
Yes.
10, and 11.
She got it. Easy to remember. 1008. Like 1008. 1008, 1009, 1010, 1011. Read those 4 verses. Everybody, that's everybody's homework today. Read those 4 verses from the Bhagavad Gita.
And then after hearing that, Arjuna turns to Krishna and he says, really important verse, Prabhupada would quote these often. He says to Krishna, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person. Purusham. You are that Purusham Shashvatam. You are the unborn, the greatest. So Arjuna's identifying who Krishna is, that he's not an ordinary person, and that you need to understand Bhagavad Gita in this context, right? And then he says, but you know what? I'm saying this stuff, but it's not just me saying this, right? Then he backs it up. What does he back it up with? He says, all the great sages, such as Narada, Asita,
He starts listing the great sages.
Yeah, and Vyasa, they confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me.
This type of thing, those type of verses, that's what really like strikes my heart, is like, here you have some ancient book and they're quoting ancient people to support their case. Like in the same way the Yoga Sutras took the yamas and niyamas perhaps from maybe this verse. It's referring to previous history of the culture. Now, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is going back and saying, great authorities. Like Krishna is the ultimate authority. He's talking about previous masters that have lived.
Yeah.
And it goes on forever.
Same thing.
Yeah, and it goes on forever. Like they keep on. It's just like when we go to India and we go to like these holy cities like Pushkar or Varanasi or Vrindavan. Then they're not like 100 years old or 1,000 years old. Like they're like Prahlad went to Pushkar. You know what I mean? Ram, like Vishwamitra's family descendants live in Pushkar. Lord Ram went to Rishikesh. It's like, it's unbelievable. We're part of like, we're just part. It's just like an unending, transcendental web of historic figures, a chain. And now it's here. The chain's here. We're part of the chain. We're the link of the chain.
Hang on.
It's exciting.
And this also, we've been discussing recently a bit about the idea of, charismatic gurus that, pose as enlightened people.
I love charismatic gurus. No, I mean, if they're real gurus.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with charisma and there's nothing wrong with being a guru. But what I'm saying is when it's like it's all based on personal charisma and it's not based.
There you go.
Right. And it's not based on drawing from these sacred texts. So even here, like when Arjuna speaks, he says, you know what, I could just say this based on my own charisma, and say it with conviction. But he's saying it's not just me. Look at these great authorities. These are deeply realized spiritual people, and they all said it too. Deva said it, Vyas said it. So this is how the tradition works. This is the yoga tradition. It's all based on guru parampara. It's all based on handing it down and not trying to create something, but always recognizing where it's coming from. And because when you do that, then the goal becomes to represent, not to pose as something new or special, but just to represent something that's special and do it in the mood of a servant. All right. So you want to read? Were we reading this commentary?
Yes.
Okay.
A brahmachari practice celibacy.
You didn't read that.
You didn't finish that one. Therefore, in the yoga practice,
you hardly started it, right?
I'm
sorry. I'm looking at the Bhagavad Gita verse.
Hey, you are allowed to correct me. You just have to be right.
Okay.
Actually,
you didn't finish that. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed by Arjuna.
In the Bhagavad Gita, it's confirmed by Arjuna that Krishna is the original Purusha. Therefore, in yoga practice, one not only must concentrate his mind on the person Krishna, but must also worship the form of the deity of Krishna daily.
There's a focus.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Like Mara, your elaborate deity worship going on in your home. It's inspiring. A brahmachari practices celibacy, controlling sex life. One cannot just enjoy unrestricted sex life and practice yoga. Someone's got to tell the yoga community that. This is rascaldom.
It's rascaldom.
That is pure. Did you think Prabhupada made
Well,
that word up,
you see-
rascaldom?
You may have, but it's kind of like this. If we go back to the Olympic athlete thing, it's like if I told Raghunath, if I said, Raghunath, my plan is to win the next gold medal in gymnastics, right?
I like where you're going with this.
You're like,
No, I do. I like where you're going with this. It's true.
okay, yeah. So and you said, well, Kaustubha, you seem kind of old for that, and I don't know if you, but hey, go for it. I wish you the best. But then you saw, right, that I sleep until about like 11 o'clock every morning, and then I kind of slowly roll out of bed, and then
You
I
have a
eat few
poor
donuts.
diet.
Yeah,
You're
I
just
mean,
watching Netflix all night. Like, what? Did you train today? I'm not going to train today. I'll train tomorrow.
Yeah, but I'm an Olympic athlete, by the way. I really am. It's like,
Right.
no, you're not.
We're not going to take you seriously. You know what that's called? It's called rascaldom, Mr.
It's
Kaustubha.
rascaldom. That's what it is.
Fully rascaldom activity.
And if you called me out on it, you'd be doing me a favor, right? Like, I would never win that gold medal unless you said, Kaustubha, this is ridiculous. This is rascaldom. You need to wake up early. You need to, eat a proper diet. You need to do all your gymnastic exercises. If you're ever going to win it.
Prabhupada's not raising the bar. He's just showing what the bar is. We're so lost. We don't even know what the bar is. But this is part of the goal of yoga, which is to control the senses and mind so you can get to something higher. Because if my senses and mind aren't controlled, it's just going to be living in a fuzz, living in a cloud.
Okay.
It's rascaldom.
It's rascaldom.
Okay. The word asteum is also very important for a yogi.
You skip the rest of that paragraph, but that's okay.
Sex
We
life
can
should be
move on,
restricted.
right?
Okay.
So-called yogis.
The word asteum is also very important for a yogi. Asteum means to refrain from theft. Theft. In the broader sense, everyone who accumulates more than he needs is a thief.
Okay.
Ooh. According to spiritual communism, that's interesting.
Yeah.
One cannot possess more than he needs for his personal maintenance.
Interesting phrase.
Spiritual communism.
In
Well,
other
the
words-
idea is
yeah.
communal.
That's right.
But the problem with communism is God is kicked out of the room, and therefore the people become God, and people aren't pure. It starts off with great intentions, like communal, and then all of a sudden, people's once you give people power, then things get very, very problematic.
Right. But
So
here,
spiritual communism,
spiritual
the
communism.
idea is, it's a
If
nice
we're
way
gonna,
to.
we all need to be satisfied relatively simply. Otherwise, there's no way that we can commune. Right? It becomes competitive, and certain people are the haves, and certain people become the have-nots. And there's
Well, that is
constant
what it's going to
tension.
be like when Zoomville and Otherland start. It's going to be spiritual communism.
Okay. The good spiritual communism.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Please continue. One cannot possess more than he needs for his personal maintenance.
That is the law of nature. Anyone who accumulates more money or more possessions than they need is a thief. And one who simply accumulates wealth without spending for sacrifice or for worship of the personality of Godhead is a great thief. Even when we read the Mahabharata, I had got one kid, we're reading the Mahabharata together. One kid we got on the Ramayana, and you hear about these kings, and it's not like these kings had no money. They had great amount of wealth. But even within that caste of kingmanship, there is prescribed duties for distribution of wealth, for
That's where the
maintaining
prescribed
the
duties
poor.
comes
If people are like destitute, the king that's the king's responsibility. There should be no destitution. There shouldn't be like a homeless drug problem where people aren't taken care of. It's part of the leader to distribute that wealth and make sure that the bases are covered. So
Correct.
Yeah,
And if
and
you
it-
don't, then you can't have a peaceful mind, and you can't meditate, and etc.
And when we read about these spiritual kings, oftentimes you hear about them losing their wealth or losing their position or losing their lives or losing a loved one, and how they react. So we're all going to be in this world with some type of stuff. And some of us don't make a lot of money, and some of us do make a lot of money. And those who do, especially in a spiritual community, it's not even what we make, it's what we do with what we make.
That's
It's not what you
and
got.
that's
It's what
the
you do
way,
with
you
what
know,
you got.
like that's part of prescribed duties. Is it recognizes the different psychologies. It recognizes some people are great at making money, and they start a business, and then they got all these employees, right?
Yeah.
And then they're making way more money than most people are making. Okay, it doesn't say you can't do that, but what the prescribed duties say is, but if that's you, if you're that person with that kind of drive and that kind of aptitude and so on, then that's great. Go out and make lots of money, but then embrace certain prescribed duties that come with that, because there's a danger with your talent that you have, and that is greed, right? That you just start to like, you don't give a damn about anyone anymore, and you're just trying to, you're kind of like a little intoxicated off
Like
the
an
whole thing.
insatiable
Yeah, you don't even
desire to
need more
collect
money.
more and more.
Yeah, you don't even need more money, but you're determined to make it, and you're hurting people while you're doing it. You know, you become callous to the suffering of others, right? So the prescribed duty says, go ahead and make the money, but your duty as the money maker in society is to give in charity, to care well for your workers. If your workers aren't being well cared for, you've got serious heavy karma on your head. What to speak of being able to meditate? You're going to suffer for that. So now you see your talents and your abilities as a way to serve others, and now you're cultivating a completely different ego set. And that's yoga.
Special K.
Yeah.
Special K. You like that one? Special K.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, we talk about it's your duty. It's the king's duty. It's not. It's like saying, like, if you're driving on a cliff, it's your duty not to get your two of your four wheels off the edge of the road. It's not just your duty. You just don't want to kill yourself. If you start dealing with large amounts of money, there is massive, massive danger. So there's prescribed duties. It's not just to throw up. We like to take away your freedom here. It's to enhance you from sliding down a very slippery slope.
Yeah. And yes, and again, from the yogic perspective, to give you a peaceful mind that's capable of focusing on God.
If you are a person that suffers from rage, like you get triggered and you lose it, you go from 0 to 11 in like 3 seconds. If you're a person that suffers from lust, sexual addiction, things like that, if you're a person that suffers from greed, these are huge, huge problems that can wreck your whole spiritual life, wreck your fun, wreck your happiness, wreck your joy. And so that's why there's a prescribed duty. It's not to take something away from you. It's to enhance.
Imagine if the business leaders in the United States, like the top ones, let's take the top 100 or whatever.
Yeah.
Imagine if in their youth, it was recognized by wise people in society that, hey, these people have potential to just make tons of money in life, right? We can see it, right? We can see it in them. And from an early age, they were trained, they were given through storytelling, through example, they were trained to understand the value in seeing their role in life as helping others, as being charitable, right? Imagine if from an early age they had this ethic instilled in them, that the more that you help others, actually that's your glory, right? Like that's what makes you special in society, and that's what's healthy for you. We could be looking at a very different world right now.
It's all changing, man. You think about it.
Is it?
The world is changing. It's become a much more spiritual world than the time when we were kids.
You're saying it has become?
It has become.
Really?
You don't think so? You don't think the fact that veganism and vegetarianism are even in the conversation?
Well, in some ways, but let's talk about what I'm just speaking about. In other words, like I see like, a huge disparity in wealth. Like a massive one. I see like people that, work hard all day and don't make enough money to live, and they got to work 2 and 3 jobs. I see people that need health care and they can't get it because certain people that are making tons of money aren't particularly concerned about everybody else. That's my point. So my point was, imagine if like the leaders of the pharmaceutical industries, and imagine if the leaders of all these different industries, imagine if from early on they were trained in a certain ethic, right? That actually my glory is not to be the richest guy. My glory is to be the most charitable guy.
Yeah.
Right. How much healthier that would be for that individual, as well as how healthy that would be for society. So when people lash out against the caste system and et cetera, granted, there's all kind of warped ways that's been twisted and used as a tool of oppression, but try to understand the value of recognizing one's aptitudes early on, recognizing one's psychologies early on, and then installing a beautiful spiritual ethic, encouraging that from a young age, the value that could have. If society's a mess, it's because we haven't done this.
It'd be a whole new world, Special K.
Yeah, which sure would be. All right, should we end there?
What was your nickname the other day? Kaustubha. Kaustubha?
I don't know.
I like Special K. That's the best so far.
Okay, Special K, I think.
Special K.
Natural. Mara, do we have any takeaways for today?
We got some good ones, yeah.
Yeah, we do.
All from Stephen Covey. They have nothing to do with us.
Your destiny starts with your thoughts.
Ooh. Malaki.
Prioritize your priorities.
Who said that? Did one of us say
Stephen
that?
Covey, no.
Right.
Your thought is the first domino. That was you,
That's one way
Raghu.
to say it.
Yeah. Yoga tradition is based on parampara, not charisma.
True.
Yep.
We are links in a chain of ancient transcendental knowledge.
Hang on.
Spiritual communism, not spiritual competition.
Okay.
Something.
Train your sadhana like you train for the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sadhana Olympics.
Prabhupada is not raising the bar. He's showing us where the bar is.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah. And the more you help others, that's your glory.
That's right.
Ah, that's a nice corny t-shirt to wear around.
Long live spiritual communism.
Raghunath comes out as spiritual communist leader.
Hey, I want to thank everybody, even the Texas Zoomers, Jose Valdez, all the people who just got up an hour earlier. So we said, okay, we're going to go up at 5 this week. They're getting up at 4 this week. And our numbers were incredibly miserable at 62 people here.
Incredibly miserable.
I'm impressed at all the people that showed up. And thanks for being so flexible. I got to take the kids to school this week.
What's going to happen? Oh, next week you go to Florida.
Next week, we are driving to Florida for spring break. Me and Goravani on spring break, getting crazy. Not spring break, but whatever. Every day is spring in Florida. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Sweet Baby Krishna for Patreon members. If you want to be a Patreon member, today's the day to do it. You get a special discount. You can give it whatever you like. That's the discount. You give whatever you like for your monthly membership, and it gets you into the secret vaults of Sweet Baby Krishnas that have been archived for your joy and pleasure. And today we're going to do it, and we're excited. And we're going to wrap up this Kartik with reading of the Garga Samhita. Hey, by the way, if anyone wants to join us at Wisdom of the Sages Retreat, there's only a few spots left. You got to go to, what's the email address for that? bhaktiretreats108@gmail.com.
It's filling up.
It is filling up. So is me and Bobby's restorative one. We're doing that on the second, restorative yin and bhakti. And then
You're Yangaholic, Raghunath. You're Yangaholic.
I'm a Yangaholic. And then we're going to, me and Madhu are going to do the Kirtan one afterwards. Kaustubha will just be floating around. He's hanging in Cali, Colombia the whole month.
That's right.
So it's exciting. We get to hang out for a month together. This is
I
crazy.
talked to Sri Govinda yesterday. Yeah.